So today I'm going to review the basic steps of one-point perspective like we did in class. So if you were absent or if you need to view this for just a future reference. So a couple of things that we do want to make sure we go through today as far as like review. One-point perspective, you're always going to need to make sure that you have a horizon line. In this design, you'll see the horizon line is kind of located right here in the middle. The other indicator that you're doing a one-point perspective concept is that you need to make sure you have one vanishing point. That vanishing point's located right here where the X is. The goal for this project, kind of as a review, is we're drawing 3 to 4 buildings that are going to be used in one-point perspective. So basic things that we're going to break down with one-point perspective. First thing is, if you are going to draw a building or a structure, you need to start first with a basic shape. That basic shape is most of the time going to be a rectangle or a square. So I'm going to start right here on the right side of this paper. And what I'm going to start with is just a general rectangle, okay? I can make those squares and rectangles anywhere I want. So I might go over here to this side of my design and make another one. But what I want you to see is that anytime I'm making a new square or a new rectangle, what I'm going to be doing is that's where I'm going to be creating my next building shape, okay? General rule of thumb is once you've made the actual flat shape that you would see of the front facing part of the building in your city, in a building design, in any type of an interior room space, then you're gonna take your ruler and you're gonna line up the corners that are closest to your vanishing point. And the goal here is that you wanna make sure your vanishing point and the corners touch with your ruler. And you're gonna draw what are considered guidelines or vanishing lines to your vanishing point, okay? So I'm gonna do that with these 2 buildings or the 2 rectangles that I drew. And what you're gonna see is once I line up the vanishing point with the corner, it's gonna look like everything gets smaller as it gets closer to that vanishing point in the background. But I don't wanna leave my design or my drawing like this. That's not how we see objects as far as buildings being designed in real life. What I need to do is then take my ruler. I wanna duplicate this line that is in between those 2 guideline spaces. So this is a vertical. I'm gonna duplicate another vertical line anywhere within that space, depending on how wide I want either side of those 2 buildings to go, okay? So what you'll see, kind of what I have here within this space or within this area, I'm gonna grab a bigger eraser. I'm gonna erase what I don't need as far as like the other parts or areas of the guidelines that were drawn in. And I've got 2 buildings now done in perspective correctly. The goal is to make 3 or 4. So I'm gonna have to figure out where another rectangle or square can go. I can put that again anywhere within my design, but I need to put at least 1 more to fulfill the requirements for this practice. I'll make 1 right here that's a little bit more narrow. And then instead of drawing my guidelines going all the way back this time, I'm gonna make them a little bit shorter so I have to do less erasing. Once I have those 3 buildings put in place, then I'm gonna look at like maybe some details or other things I can add into them. So for instance, if I wanted to add a door or windows, then I'm going to use my vanishing point if it's going to be on like the side that faces down towards the VP or the side of the building that would have the slanted angle to it. So for example, this door that I am shading in, this angle of the top of the door goes back to the vanishing point. If I wanted to add windows, again, the bottom of those windows, the tops of those windows have to go to the vanishing point in my perspective drawing. They can't just randomly go anywhere I want them to go. And then I can start to add details in my structures, okay? If it's on the front facing side, I do not have to use my vanishing point because this is the front part of the building. So everything on that front area faces towards me. And I'm just drawing straight rectangles going back in space, okay? So as I start to add maybe details, as I start to add maybe like different types of surface textures, I'm going to use my vanishing point only when it starts to go to the side of the building or the side of the structure that actually angles back in perspective. And I'm going to be using that vanishing point to create that illusion that the building is receding back in space and it's creating that distance or that depth. So that's what our first individual practice is going to entail. And it's basically just using that 1 point perspective concept.